Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Alexander. I'm a law of attraction and energy coach, and I was inspired recently to try doing something a little different. So this is my first video in the series. Um, so I was inspired to try something new because of another coach who sent out an email recently, and she basically said, "Hey everyone, I've got to be really honest with you. I've had these two very intense negative manifestations come up, and it's been really hard. And I've been reaching out to people, and they've been supportive. But I just want to tell you all where I'm at. And if you have any advice or words of encouragement, I would really love to hear them." And I was really inspired by this, and I thought it was really great that this coach was so honest in this email about what was happening, um, because I realized that for a lot of us energy coaches, us law of attraction coaches, there's kind of this pressure that once you announce yourself to be a energy coach, that you feel like you have to be perfect and that your life has to you have to show how perfect your life is after that. And so I thought it was really cool to see a coach that was so candid about something that was happening. Um, and I thought it would be cool to, based off of that, do a little series where I talk about the things that are manifesting in my life right now and how I'm processing them as an energy coach, as well as just have a more informal setting, basically, to do videos and talk about things. Because right now on my blog, on my website, I have it set up basically that each week I send out a blog post where I talk about a more technical aspect of the law of attraction or how to work through something specific. And it's a little more focused on you, the viewer, like the action steps that you can take. And maybe I'll put in a personal example here or there, but I tend to keep it less about me and I keep it more about you, the viewers. But I've been feeling really inspired recently that I want my own space where I kind of talk about things that I'm working through, because I think that can be really helpful for people. For one, just to see that life coaches aren't these all-powerful gods that have everything perfect. Like if you read any about section on a coaching website, you'll see I was depressed, I had the most horrible things, I was broke, my partner left me, I got really sick, and then I discovered this stuff, and bam, now I have the perfect husband, the perfect house, the kids, the white picket fence, money, all those kinds of things. And the story of how you get there can be a little lost, as well as sort of a big truth about energy coaching, which isn't really that you go from the stark before miserable and after everything is purely happiness and nothing bad ever happens to you. Like, what energy coaching is really about is learning how to deal with negative manifestations as they arise. And in the beginning, you usually have a lot, because by the time you tend to turn to energy coaching, and it doesn't have to be this way, but nowadays, usually it's sort of like you've hit the bottom of the barrel and you're finally like, I'm fed up, I can't take this anymore. And that's when you start to find coaches and start to find these answers. So you do have a radical transformation in what you work through initially. But that doesn't mean that just because you work through those initial things that you never have any problems again. It just means that you now know how to deal with manifestations as they arise. And I think it's important for us to be more honest about that, because it makes it easier to work through things. Like, instead of when you say my life is happily ever after I figured out this one simple law of attraction trick, it tends to make people feel like failures if something negative does manifest. Like, they tend to feel embarrassed that they're not using the law of attraction correctly. And they are, is the thing. Like, sometimes you don't notice the signs until it does manifest in your life, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that this is something really big for you. And the fact that it's showing up in your life now means that you have the opportunity to work through it. Like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So I kind of want to tell a little bit about my own life in order to clarify some of those things, as well as just kind of show what law of attraction looks like in your daily life. For instance, with creating this video, like starting to where we are now, kind of my story in that is I've used Pinterest for a while to promote my business, and I've really liked it, but I haven't manifested any clients. I've been working on my business for a year. I've been doing all the quote-unquote right things, but I've had a couple people sign up for my email list, and that's slowly been increasing, but I haven't gotten to the point where I've actually managed to generate someone paying me for my coaching services. And I had been feeling really frustrated with that and feeling like I'm failing to use my own law of attraction practices to generate clients. So I have been slowly trying to work on that and increasing that energy. And it kind of came to a head recently when one of my friends from the coaching group that I'm in, yes, us life coaches have coaches too, one of my friends, Richmond is his name, mentioned for that is kinesiology, I think that's how you pronounce it, kinesiology practice, that he doesn't do any advertising and he just manifests clients when he wants them. He just thinks about it like, business seems a little slow, I'd like to have more people, and they just show up. And I thought that was super fascinating. So I asked him if I could, talk to him about it and how he got to that space. And he basically told me his story of how he incrementally worked his way to get to that energy space, which I just wrote a blog post about that'll be coming out this Monday. So I'll link that below here in the video when it's out. And I thought that was super fascinating, and it was a sign to me that I'm starting to get into the space of where maybe I can start to manifest clients. So sometimes the signs are really subtle, I guess is what I want to say, and it can be a really long process. Like, it's been a year till I finally got into the space of like, you know what, I don't have clients, I'd really like to have clients. What do I need to be doing energetically in order to get there? So things can take time, I guess, is what I'm trying to say with this rather long tirade. And another big thing too is with trying to manifest clients, as I said earlier, I've been using Pinterest. I really like Pinterest. I've been seeing the amount of views that my pins, my blog posts have been increasing. But I've really wanted another platform to speak and talk about sort of energy coaching and law of attraction. And I've been trying to use Instagram, but I just don't like Instagram. And I can see that my energy is not aligned to it because I'm really not manifesting people responding to things. And it's not that it's a bad platform. Some people use it and really love it, but it's just not the right platform for me. And so I've kind of honored that recently. I'm just, you know what, I'm just not doing Instagram. It seems like it's taking way more time, way more energy than I want to put into it, and it's not giving me the results that I want. And in the past, I've tried to do YouTube videos, but they've always felt really awkward. Like, I've been trying to give instructional how to, how to have an anger release in a video format, and it just comes out kind of flat. And I feel awkward in doing it because I like writing things out much better. It just flows better, and I'm able to structure things the way that I need to. I can come back and edit my blog post as the way that I see fit, so that by the time I send it out, it's ready. So I've kind of honored that that's the way that I like to do my instructional blog posts. But I've also kind of liked the idea of having my face in my business, right? Like, there's advantages of that. You can see the energy that I give. You can kind of get a sense of how I work and how I think in a multidimensional sense, because you don't just see my writing. You hear what I'm saying and what I'm thinking as it's coming to me. And so I've kind of liked the idea of doing YouTube, but I've been a little hesitant at the same time, um, because it I realized this morning in processing it that it takes a lot of vulnerability to put yourself out there in a public space, especially when you're talking about spiritual things. Because at least I've become aware of the community that surrounds me, like the people that I interact with in my daily life aren't usually spiritual people. Like, I'm dating a scientist, and so all the people that I know through him are all much more scientific thinkers, and they're not necessarily into things when I say vibrational energy. And I realize I've been really self-conscious about that and been afraid of sort of speaking my truth. And I think that is just emblematic of a bigger, sort of a bigger feeling. You know, I've been seeing a lot on the internet and hearing people talk about in sort of the light worker space, like people that feel that they're here to help, you know, raise the energy and inspire others to live, you know, really fulfilling and wonderful lives, that there's sort of this fear of speaking their truth, like that it may be seen as illogical or, you know, unrealistic. Your head's in the clouds, you know, don't you know how the real world works? It sucks. And I've realized that I've been carrying a lot of that fear, and I've been quieting myself in talking about these things because I haven't wanted to be persecuted in a sense. Like, I've kept that part hidden. And it also, I think, ties to kind of a feeling that throughout history, people who have been trying to say something as brave as "you don't have to be afraid" and that things are going to be okay have been taken down. You know, like, the energy in the world for a long time was overwhelmingly in the dark and in a place of fear. So to try to shine the light and say that maybe things are going to be okay, that's really triggering for people. That's really scary. And you'll watch it with, like, you know, celebrities, for instance, who are really coming from an energy of inspiration and feeling good. Like, some people are really supportive of that. They find themselves uplifted, but some people just try to tear them down, you know, like fucking YouTube comments section. Oh no, I swore. But the YouTube comments section, you know, are like, you can see people just evolve into this. And I think it's an energy thing. Like, it can just, if you're not ready to raise yourself up to where someone's at, if they're really in a strong space, it can be really scary, and you instinctually kind of want to bring them down to your own shit. We call it the shit pit, in coaching, very technical term. But I believe truly that we are coming to a space nowadays in the world where there is more light coming in, and people are feeling more comfortable with being able to say their truth and say that things are okay and they're going to be okay, and we're not being burned at the stake anymore. Like Denise Duffield Thomas, she's a money manifestation coach. She talks a lot about like the witch wound, like sort of the feeling that if you dare to stand out in any way, which includes, you know, being inspiring and being an uplifter, that there's this fear of being burned at the stake. And that's kind of an energy that we now get to work through. So I've been trying to do that on my own, and I don't know, sometimes when you sleep, I think things just shift. And I woke up this morning and I was like, why am I afraid of making YouTube videos? Like, literally, why does this scare me? Like, if people don't like it, they won't watch it. There's literally no downside to making this video. So that's how I've ended up here. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about, especially because it's my first video, so I have a lot that I want to say. I think something else that's kind of interesting too, in my life that's going on that I think helped lead to this video is, this is the first week my boyfriend's on a business vacation. right now. So he's not in the country, and this is the first time in like 2 years that I've had a couple days all to myself, which sounds really bad, but with, you know, the lockdown going on and moving to a foreign country, if you don't know, I'm from the United States, but I'm currently living in Belgium. Um, it's just been, there's been a lot of things happening that I haven't felt very independent. And this is kind of the first week that I've really had to be independent, as well as I've had kind of the space to be in my own vibration for a couple of days. So I've kind of used it as an opportunity to really reflect on where I am now and where I want to go in the future. And this is one of the things that came up, is that I would like to do more videos, and I really want to do some more energy work to get into the space to get my coaching biz really, really thriving. Because I think it's helpful and it's a good way to sustain myself, both financially and emotionally. Like, doing good in the world is a really nice thing, and I kind of want to be one of those leaders. So this has been a good week to get really, really clear on that. Especially because I know personally, and I think a lot of people in my generation probably feel this too, we feel a little bit of a pull between the traditional path of kind of what you're supposed to do to be successful and this modern path. Like, the way that this manifested for me is I went to college, which I didn't love, but I did it. And I got a degree basically in sort of entrepreneurship and business, with also an art degree background, art design. So I've been trying for about 2 years now to get into the business of digital design, graphic design, web design, that kind of thing. And it has just not worked out for me. Like, I've applied to probably 1,000 jobs, probably. And the most I've gotten in this space is an unpaid internship that I didn't really want to take. And I should have listened to my instinct, because it kind of fell apart moment I got there. But giving myself this week on my own, I've kind of had to sit with it and think about, like, is this really what I want to do? And it's not. Like, my applications to these places have come from a place of desperation, come from a place of fear of not doing it right, and of not being successful, and a scarcity mindset instead of an abundance mindset. And I think that's part of the reason that I haven't been able to land a job. Like, I haven't really been honoring what I've wanted, for one thing. And two, I haven't been in the energy space where people will hire me. I give out the energy of, like, don't hire me, I'm desperate. You know, it's kind of the job equivalent of, like, the woman that's terrified she's going to die alone, and so she gets desperately clingy with any potential date, you know? And, like, I have to be real with myself that the energy that I'm giving out is not one that leads me to being hired. And so I want to sit with that a little bit more. And I guess, to be fully honest on it, I think this is something that's going to take a little bit of time. Like, my fear of being jobless is so intense that I probably will continue to apply to positions, at least for a while I, on the side, also try to work through those fears that I have around it. And I want to be really honest with that, because I don't, like, sometimes I feel like the law of attraction advice that's given out there is that you have to do things 100% or not at all, right? Someone may be like, don't apply to jobs at all, and just think about manifesting the perfect job. And that can work for some people that are, you know, all or nothing types, but I'm not. I'm more of a risk adverse person in general. And so that kind of advice would really put me into a panic. And so I feel a little better having a plan B. At least I'm applying for something. And that actually helps me raise up my vibration a little more. So I think that's just something I want to acknowledge too, that like you don't have to quit your day job if you want to start something new. You can start it on the side and do the energy work for that, and then you'll know when you feel okay with switching over. Or you can quit and go directly to that if you're more intense, I guess. I don't really know how to say it. Like just a different personality flavor. So yeah, that's something that I've been trying to manifest in my life and hasn't really come fully, in part because I don't really want it. I really want to do the coaching thing. But I also feel like that's good to be honest about, because I'm a LOA coach, but I'm also not perfect, you know? So that's one thing. The last thing I think I want to talk about, which is a bit of a topic change, but technically it's related. So I mentioned earlier that I'm doing a blog post this week about my experience talking to my friend Des about his journey to being able to effortlessly manifest clients. But what I don't talk about in the blog post is that he actually did a session with me. It was something that I think he referred to as somatic experiencing, which I would define based on the session as basically LOA work that's entirely body-led. And it was really cool. And basically what he had me do is he asked me to think of a goal of what I wanted, which was, to easily manifest clients. What if I did have this, thriving, sustainable business? And then before getting into that, he asked me to think of something unrelated that I really love and have a positive association with. So I thought of, if you've seen some of my Instagram posts, you might know there's a little park nearby where I live, and there's a bunch of geese in there, and there's one goose in particular that I absolutely just love, and I call him the big boy, and he's teaching me a lot about abundance and mindset. He kind of feels like my animal mentor in a lot of ways, but thinking about him just always makes me really happy. So I spent about 30 seconds to a minute kind of visualizing this goose. And then Des told me, okay, this is sort of your safety memory as we go through this work. If you're ever uncomfortable in any ways, just think about this goose. And then you'll be brought back to feeling better. So that was really cool, having like a little fail safe as we were doing this work, because I was a little nervous initially, but I totally didn't have to be. And then basically what he had me do is like, okay, think about this business. Think about what if it was actually a sustainable business and you were, thriving and doing well, and be very aware and conscious of what you're feeling in your body. So I did. I sat with that. I sat with that idea. And then all of a sudden my throat felt really tight and started to restrict a little bit. And it was really interesting because as a kid in like middle school, so maybe it's like 12 or 13 years old, I kind of developed this fear of being unable to breathe. And so much so that I had trouble swallowing, and I'd have to like calm myself physically in order to be able to get to breathe again. And like, it wasn't something I ever told anyone about, and I don't know why. Like, I probably should have mentioned it, but I never did. And eventually, a couple years later, it went away. So it was fascinating that when I thought about this business, this feeling came back, right? And he's like, Des just basically told me, remind yourself that you can breathe, and I just want you to focus on that energy, that tightness in the throat, and just observe what it does. And so I did. I paid attention, and at first it was just kind of there, but then all of a sudden it started to move, and I could feel the energy start to go up my throat and very, very slowly into like the middle of my jaw. And it was fascinating. I've never done any kind of work like that. And he told me to just keep going and let that feeling. So this took a few minutes, like this took a little bit of time. But eventually that that sort of energy stayed here for a little bit, and then it started to move up, and all of a sudden I just breathed it out. And it was really cool because whatever that emotional energy that was in there that was locked in my body basically just kind of came out. And I don't know what that fear was specifically, but I had let it go in a physical sense. And I thought that was really cool because the way that I normally work is that we normally get a little more specific about the fear. Like we'll let it manifest in the mind. Like we'll imagine it in the mind, however it plays out. Like it might be a scary monster or something, right? But it's all within the mind. I've never done stuff that's focused specifically physically in the body. So that was really cool, and it's opened my eyes to a different form of energy work that I thought was really interesting. So if you are interested or curious about that, I think he called it somatic experiencing. I can ask him more about it. But he also has a website that he's setting up where he's doing some of that work. So you should definitely go check it out. Or his kinesiology practice, because he does some cool things. But that was just, that was super cool to have that experience. And we did more of that work, and basically manifestations of pain in my body or discomfort that I've had all came up. Like I have a little bit of pain in my knee, and that manifested. I have some pain in like my kidneys, my bladder. Like I kind of had this thing where I'm terrified of being unable to use a bathroom, so much so that I like psych myself out and I think that I need to pee when I don't. And he told me that's related to fear, which was also interesting because I have it in my ears as well. And he told me that was kind of those body points represented like the same thing. Like they represented fear, which I thought was super fascinating. So I want to learn a little bit more about it myself and see if maybe that is helpful to add to my practice, or if not, recommend people go and work with practitioners who specialize in that. So that's basically it, I think, for now. And this video is about at 30 minutes, which is probably a good place to end, especially for the first video. So thank you for watching this. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious. This is kind of fun. I might do it even if nobody's watching. It's just kind of a good way to check in with what's going on and maybe think about things that I want to add to the practice, to my coaching practice, or, shift. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, let me know. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day and happy manifesting.